Some things really bother me when people do upholstery, and unfortunately this does. The area for attaching the side is back here, and for whatever reason somebody put the webbing here and then proceeded to repeatedly, and I'll say repeatedly because I think it's 2 layers that people have put coming forward. I'm going to see if I can smooth this out slightly, move the webbing further back and then attach back here. There's a nice 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch ridge here for people to put the side onto. So I'll see if I can straighten that out a little bit. The other area that is really annoying me is here. The arm should continue all the way at this level to the back, but for some reason they decided to bring it up here, and the wood area here, 2 pieces have chipped out, so I'm going to glue those back in, and I'm going to very carefully carry on up here until I can at least get this arm piece out. There's a nail here which I was going to take out, but it seems to go all the way through. I think that might have something to do with the dowel in here that goes up, so that might go through the dowel to try to hold everything together. There's a crack up here and all the way through to the other side. I am wondering if they did it that way to hide the crack, which of course you can see further up. This should never have come all the way forward here. So I'm going to see how I can get the arm in and bring the top down in a more pleasing look. I might be able to smooth some of this out to make it look better. This should come out, but it seems to be stapled onto the back here, which it shouldn't be. It should just be pulled round and onto the side. So I'm going to see if I can get my pliers in to pull it out, because I can't pull it out from the other side at all. There's nothing to hold on to. It goes up behind all the hessian, so people hide staples in all sorts of weird places, so you sometimes have to hunt for them. I keep finding staples that are half in, so when they were putting these in they really weren't getting them stuck into the right place either. I think I'm going to have to just cut that. That's irritating when you have to cut things and leave them in. Having set the Dacron on here, I'm just going to cut it along the top of this. I might have to cut it back again in a minute as it's pulled in, but I just want it to be in basic shape to start off with. I've secured it about here. That's low enough. A little bit lower would be better, but that'll be fine. And I've just put a piece of Dacron in here, which has filled out a little bit of the difference here, but I still need to fill out this section of the chair, only by a little bit. I'm just going to undo these 4. So they should come up quite easily. I'm going to pick that apart a little bit. I'm going to pop this under here. Also under here is the Dacron that I put over the top. So I really need to put this underneath all of that and push it on up into place. I'll use my thing to do that. Hopefully I'll get enough up in there for it to start pushing up at the top. Otherwise I'm going to have to undo all of this. It's just a little bit awkward getting into spaces like this. I've filled it up. It comes a little bit further over down here, which is what I wanted. It's not perfect, but that's partly because of the shaping. I didn't realise that's how far over it should have gone because of what was already on there. With the extra Dacron in the arm, I think once that goes all the way across, that'll be fine. Now I'm going to pull this back into position, pull that down there. I think that's where I want it. I'm pulling this relatively tight up here and into place. Make sure that all of that is away from that area there. So I'm just going to put the first one in at the top. I can take it out shortly. I'm going to put a couple more staples in at the top. I'm trying not to go too close to the border because I do have to cut everything back, and then I will pull it in at the bottom as well. So I'm going to do a couple at the top and a couple at the bottom, so that I pull it up and down. Once I've done that, then I'll decide what I'm doing on this inside arm here. It's going to be slow work, but I'd much rather do it slowly and make sure everything goes in than to rush it and get something wrong. I'm going to put the front in here. That's where I need it, which might alter how I put this in, but I was expecting that anyway. Something I've noticed as I do this is wrinkling. I don't want that wrinkling, so I will put a little bit more padding underneath here at the sides and pull it down hard and pull to the back. I'd much rather find that out as a problem now than get told in a few months' time that something's wrong with it. Now I've worked about a third of the way along top and bottom, and you can see it's starting to ripple, which I'm not happy about. I'm just going to pull all of this into the back here and straighten that rippling out. I might have to cut a little bit further down here where the bar is. If I've made a mistake, it's going to be hidden behind the back anyway. So fold that up and really tug it that way and that way. And I think with a little bit of working, that will go in. It's because it's got a rounded side and there's really not much you can do about that. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to go under the bar at the back just to make sure it does go where it needs to go. So I'll cut in. That can go under there, and this piece can go to the back here. Pull that back. I need to adjust that so it goes in. Pull this up. If it's a little bit wrinkly at the bottom, it's not going to be too much of a problem, but this fabric is really not a forgiving fabric. It's going to do what it's going to do. That's the trouble with some fabrics, they just don't want to play ball with me. So if I pull that in tight, I think with the up and down going in as well, that will work. That's what I'm working on now. It's going to take me about maybe 20 minutes to get this in. And if necessary, I'll take this out and pull it the other way. That sometimes helps as well. I found it easier to get about a quarter of the way along there, and then to secure this first little piece here and all the way across the front, and then pull it all the way to the back. I'm just going to cut this into the back. That then goes underneath. So I've got it far enough back here that I can bring this down into place, and then I'll do across the bottom there. This should come all the way through, but it's not, so I'm going to have to cut a little ways further up, not by very much because I can't get that into place. That'll probably do actually. Pull that up like that, and this should be able to be folded down. Maybe not. It's almost in. I've just got to work this piece in. So I've got to cut a little bit more off the front, and then that should come round to the back. So if I cut a nick where I need it to be on the back, I can line it up. So I've managed to fold it over at the top there, and I'm going to secure it right at the top here as well. Now this can go back into place. What was I going to do? Oh, I'm going to put a couple more pieces of webbing along here because that is too soft for somebody to lean on. There's no lumbar support here. So I'll do that in a minute. I put the arms in last week so I could give myself time to think about the back. There were 5 buttons on a very plain back. It's got such grand carving that I feel just to put a plain back in plain fabric would be a little bit dull. I'm going to see if I can get this to pleat up and give us some deep buttoning, but I might not be able to do very deep buttoning because, as you can see, there's really nothing very much on here. I'm going to put another layer of Dacron on, but I'm only going to bring it up to about here. Also, I wasn't particularly happy with the way these went in, so let's see how we get on. I've put the Dacron on the back. I'm going to pull that up to here. I should have enough for another pleat there, and then that coming in here. Usually I would have my double-ended needle and find that hole. So I'm pushing it through the fabric, through the original hole, and then all the way to the back. My other needle's way better than this, but unfortunately I think I packed it by mistake. So it's all the way to the back. I did recover the buttons. I actually had to sew the fabric on because I still can't find the right kind. I've put a long length of cording, thread that through there like that, and I'm going to pull that through to the back. I think I'm going to pin that into place like that. Let's pop that there and put that in here. All I'm doing is pushing the pins in at angles so that they hold the weight of the fabric. Now let's pull this because that has to hold there and that. This is quite awkward fabric to work with actually. I'm going to loosely tie some wadding on the back to hold it first. Something like that will do. A piece of fabric, anything you can get that will tie on there. That's tied in, and if I pull it up it will come in quite deep. That will hold it for now. So we'll work that in, work that one down. So the next one comes to here, and I am going to just cut a hole in here. Mind your fingers on the back, like that. Bring this one round, just make sure that's even at the top, as even as I can make it. Kind of push that in, thinking that might be where that goes. These pins keep popping out, they're really not long enough for the job. And that one will fold that way, and then pull down into here. So pop this in, more or less where I want it. Find the original hole, and then through to the back, as straight as you can do it. These modern needles really aren't as good as the old ones. The one I usually use is steel. I'm sure it's really strong. It doesn't bend at all and it's finer than this, but this works. I can alter it, but I can't go very far out from there because obviously I'm going to put too many holes in it. So I have to get it as close to where I want it as possible first time. Having pulled this one through, I put the pleat at the top. You always put the pleats to the outside like that. I think the pleat might want to go there, and there'll be another pleat here, and then my other pleat will be going towards this button here. In the meantime, I'm going to pull it all the way back to the back. I've got another bit of wadding here to tie it off with. Now this one I can certainly attach to the frame when I'm ready. I just need it to hold for now. You want a little bit of tautness on these, otherwise you don't get all those pleats in. So I can now move this pin here to here. This one really doesn't want to go in at all. They sometimes don't want to go in straight away. So I'm going to put that back in and down like that. I need to work out where the button goes here. I'm hoping that's tight enough. I think when that's pulled against that frame there and then this up and this down, that should bring that out. Yeah, I think I might have to move that one, but let me see where this one goes first before I decide what to do, because I really don't want that ripple there. It might need to be taken in 1/2 inch, so the mark will still be folded in behind this one. Actually, I'm going to pin that as a pleat rather than into the top for now, just like that, because it really doesn't want to hold, and I'm going to be moving it anyway. Let me pull this out. It goes here, so I'm going to pull that down to there. Take my scissors. I'm just cutting a hole here so my button can go in there. I've just repeated there and pulling it down quite tight to here and down. My needle will work out where that goes in here, which is, I think that's where it is, in there. I'm going to put a couple of staples just across the top here to hold it, not across the pleat here for now, and I can remove them if I need to. So that will hold that there for me for the moment while I rework this one here, because this one has to have a pleat going up here, and I can't pull this out. I've just got to fold it into place. I'm wondering how that's going to work. As I work this one in, it will alter how this goes in here. I've actually reworked this a couple of times. I think I like where it's heading, but I'm not finishing up this side until I've worked out this side. So in view of this button going in better than this one, I'm going to put this button in and then the top one here. Now I don't think the back is going to be particularly even. I think the button for here is a little bit further over, but I can always put a little bit more padding behind one side to make it look more even compared to the other. Now this fabric is a little bit unforgiving. I've redone the top twice now. I think this is the 3rd time. I lose count, but I'm trying to pull this in and around here. You can see it's wrinkling. I would like to just have one fold, but I don't think it's going to allow me to do that, which is annoying. I don't want to put too many staples in, and I don't want to move it around too much, but I have a feeling that I'm going to have to come here and then take everything back up and out, and then from here everything down, and I'm just going to have to put up with those wrinkles. Usually you take it out to the side. I've also put a little bit more stuffing in here to help it. I've got this little area here to work out. So what I'm saying is, when you're putting something like this in, be prepared to go one way, find where it looks like it's going to go in, and then take it back up and see how well that goes in. We'll just rework it until it fits. One thing I did notice when I was putting this in is this is quite firm compared to this side, which was really flat. Now I've added some extra cotton wadding in behind here, so hopefully what I've added in will give me the same look as I've got on this side, because I was finding it rather awkward pulling it all in where there was nothing to be pulling it in and over the top of. I'll work this corner in I might need to put a little bit more in. It seems still to be a little bit flat compared to this side, but not by very much now. It's almost there. I just need to put a little bit more filler across the top, which I'm going to find awkward because I didn't notice until after I'd cut this back. So I've got to put it in underneath and hope that that does what I want it to do. It's not going to be identical because you can see this button is a little bit further over here than it is on the other side. There's nothing I can do about it. The original buttons were in those places, so the dips that the buttons themselves came out of are kind of set in stone, if you like. I'm going to pull that in here. So these ridges here are going to be slightly different as I push that into here, and I don't want to pull it too much because I don't want these pleats coming out. I also don't want to have to sew these pleats in either. So I'll just work these up and down. I'm going to pull that down. I'll work it out. It'll just take a little minute to get sorted. Not that it's very obvious, but there was a big crack here and I have filled it with glue and sawdust. So it's filled between the two pieces of wood here, and I pushed quite a lot in, so I assume that it's almost down to where the original dowel came in, but it went along here and there. I've just got to allow that to dry up a little bit. It's still a bit spongy. I can't do anything with the top here. This crack goes all the way through. I'm going to pop this here and staple it there, and then that down there, and I will go along here, but I'm actually going to cut that down so it matches, and then it's not going to be lumpy across here. So here's the top and it comes around here. I'm going to hold that up like that, coming over slightly that first edge. I don't want to go over all of it, I just need to get there. Put it at a slight angle, just a little bit. I don't want it to be too angular, not to start off with, because I could change my direction in a minute. Yeah, that's a bit low. I'm going to raise it a little bit. The first few, especially when you're doing a whole length, is a little bit awkward to do sometimes. I'm going to pop this in here. Yeah, that's where I want that one. I'm going to adjust it quite a bit, I think. Pop this here. Okay, so I've got this coming up here. I will take these out and adjust them. I've also got this coming in at a slight angle to the back so it matches the other side. I'm just going to put a couple of staples in to hold everything where I want it. I can adjust them later, and then I can start cutting the general shape of the chair and pop that over there to hold it. I'm just going to staple this behind here like this to also hold it. So I come round here, I'm just going to pull that up slightly so I can get into shape and secure, and then cut across here. I'm going to cut the top off here so it's along the top of the wooden arm, and the side of the arm comes here. I'm going to cut down at a loose angle down the front of the chair and across the bottom to meet up with where I've just cut to. So I'm going to pull that down to the bottom and put that in place. I can feel the top of the wood here, and I'm just going to pull that down and put it in there. I don't want to go too far down. I think that's the furthest I need to go. Also going to pick this up slightly and put it in here. So I'm just going to take these two out because they are absolutely in the wrong place, like that. And I might have to take that one out as well. Pull that up, push that up to the ridge here. And instead of going all the way up, I'm just going to go across and out. Then I can start cutting this around like that. And then I can make my way around, following the shape of the frame. I just got to be very careful because there's carving here and I don't want to ruin any of that. If I take this out as I go, one, I'll be able to see where the shaping goes to, and the second thing is that the fabric will contour around a little bit better than if I don't bother at all. I can cut anything else back a little bit later once I'm happy with everything. It just takes a little while to get everything where I want it. I think that's okay there. I don't want it to be too tight. I need to make sure that this doesn't wrinkle at the top here. So I'm going to pull that down and secure it here. And then I'm going to just pull all of this into place as I go around. It just takes a little while, that's all. I have a scrap piece of fabric here. The pile goes down and I want to use this for the double piping. So I'm actually going to cut that on the bias. I'm going to cut this way, I think. So long as it goes down, that's all I really care about, because it allows the fabric to twist a little bit better. So my first cut is going to be down here on this fold all the way across. You could draw it if you wanted to, that's entirely up to you. I just tend to fold things and then cut things. And I'm going to cut each of these 2 inches. 1 3/4 of an inch will work, but I'm going to be a little bit more generous. The fabric is a little bit slippery, so I don't want to risk it slipping as I'm sewing it together. I want it as firm as possible. The piping for the chair seat, I have cut 1.5 inches straight across the fabric so that the pile goes down. I need to cut it this way, as I've got corners and curves to go around, and it will be a lot easier. This is the bottom, so I've actually cut a chunk off the bottom. All of the pieces of the biased piping will have a corner cut off, so when I join them there won't be any discrepancy with which direction the piping is going. Some people don't care. I do. I like all my piping going the same way. So I'll cut this out, and when I get to the end I'll cut my end off like that and carry on going. I'm just going to be showing you a sample. This piece comes down and the corner's been cut off. This corner's been cut off, so I know that if I fold that on top of there, both pieces of fabric will be going in the right direction. So I'm going to just hook that up for you. I'm going to put that on one of the smallest stitches and go from the top to the bottom. Cut that back to within 1/4 of an inch. The shine on both pieces of fabric are going the same way. Now the idea is you run both pieces of piping together and you keep the fabric as tight as you can. Unfortunately, this is such slippery fabric that it keeps rolling, and the piping I'm using isn't very good for this little piece either. Make sure that your seams are open. Make sure that the bottom fabric goes all the way to the side, and make sure that you're also using the longest stitch. And I'm going to finish this little piece up. Seeing as it's only a sample, it doesn't have to be perfect. When you've made up your double piping, just cut back any fabric on the back like that, and that's where you'll put your glue to attach it. That's what it should look like. I've just released this corner and lifted the dacron that I had put over the top and put a little bit of stuffing on, which I have managed to push into place. There's a little bit more there, using my tack remover. It's a very useful tool. The reason was because there was a dip here. There's a little bit more up there, but I think what I've done will hold that in place perfectly, and I can just re-staple it and then put the trim on. This corner, I put a piece of single piping, some padding and a little piece of fabric here so that it follows the line of the wood here. I'm going to probably cut it back a little bit more. I want to push this all the way through to the back, and I've got some long pieces here. I'm just not sure how well they're going to manage. So I'm going to quickly sew on some tabs so that I know that it will go all the way through the back of the chair. I don't want to have any mistakes here. There's that one. I'm going to push that all the way back to the back here. It's finding where it goes through. It is a bit of a bind. It looks like I can put a little bit more stuffing in there, but I'm going to sew on the tab for this one too, so that I can't lose that one either. I initially put some staples along the back to hold it. They do need to be altered. I've got to pull it up slightly. And I've just put a little piece of padding under here and brought the bottom in as smoothly as I can for now. I'll go back to the top and start re-pulling all of this in so it goes in at a nice angle. Along the back here, I've just put the back tacking. The one that folds over I've decided would be the easiest, and I've put it in as straight as I can. Kind of want some of this behind there, but I don't want to have it too thick. I'm going to cut that up just a little bit to thin it out. it'll pull in. Okay, so that's where that's going. So what I really need to do is to cut in here. I'm going to do it in sections actually. Fold it quite a ways under so I can feel where it's going, all the way to the top. I folded it all in and then used a piece of foam so I could bang it into place without ruining the fabric. It seems to have gone in quite well actually. So the next thing I've got to do is work out where my double piping goes. I want it to go across and then I want that to fold over. So I'm going to put the double piping in place while I think about what it is I'm going to do with that end. It'll be the same on the other end too. I brought the double piping behind here, secured everything in, and then when I finished at the bottom here with the aluminium back tacking, I just folded everything over the top so it looks nice and neat. Because it's got double piping here, I didn't bother putting any piping under here. I just felt that that was a bit too much. So it just folds under and tucks away nicely. And then put the black fabric all the way around. It's a bit lumpy, but there's a couple of things on the frame here that were a bit dented, but it'll be fine. Thank you for joining me on this project. I'm actually quite pleased with it, but I do have some concerns which I'm going to point out to you. One, the chair seat is very high, but it's actually comparable to the seat cushion that was already in there. I pulled this down an extra inch, but my thought on it is that it didn't originally have a seat cushion. The front border was here, and then a lot of padding was brought up on top of the springs for the seat. Some old furniture, and even modern, doesn't necessarily have a seat cushion. Seat cushions were introduced because if you have wear and tear on the original top, which would have been here, you have to have it upholstered. You put a seat cushion on, and when the wear and tear is on here, you just flip the seat cushion over and you've got double the length of use because the wear and tear is even on both sides. That's one of my things, is it probably never had a seat cushion when it was originally made. It was just really plump on top of here, and at a later date somebody put one on. It might have been the people who reupholstered it but didn't bother putting the springs in. Who knows? Somewhere along the line the design of the chair has changed. I'm hoping my friend likes it because, as I say, it is rather high. I'm hoping that all the repairs that I've made will stand up to wear and tear as well. It looks a lot grander with the deeper buttoning. It's a little bit off, but the whole chair, when I put it on its back, rocks to one side, which means it's not even on the back. And it's just old. It was the way it was done. It reminds me of folk art. It was well made to begin with, but as I say, it reminds me of folk art with all this heavy wood here rather than commercially made. If you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be absolutely brilliant. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.